So the first thing that we got to talk about here, every week, starting today, we are going to get a weekly packet. Oh, right? I know. Well, I say packet, but the packet actually is front and back, with very little space between, jammed in there with like 6 font, condensed as much as possible. Okay. All right. So it's really not that bad. You'll see. So here's what we do. I'll give you the packet on a Friday, starting today, for instance. The packet is due in a week. You get a 7-day period to do these questions, okay? So you can pace yourselves. Maybe you do a handful of questions every night, or break it down however you'd like to. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. You guys are capable enough of figuring out a timeline. The packet, though, is not going to actually be turned into me. The packet is going to be submitted online, okay? There will be a Google form that matches up with these packet questions that all you have to do is get into Google Classroom, submit, or go through, put your name in. All the questions are there. You just go through and you click through what your answers would have been. Now, I would encourage you to do the questions on this hard copy first, right? Do them on here first. When you're ready, go to the Google Classroom and submit. Let me pass these out so you can see what I'm talking about. Each packet corresponds to a different strand, they call it, or concept that we're studying. Now, the first one is something related to numbers and operations, called the number system. Next week, we're going to do one that's related to equations and inequalities. All right? But if you look at it, flip it over, you can see that there are 35 questions on there. Many of them are multiple choice, okay? So when you get into the Google Classroom, you're going to be selecting from multiple choice answers, okay? And I think most of these are multiple choice regardless. Like on, for instance, number 1, that's not a multiple choice question, but when you get into the Google Classroom, there'll be choices for you to choose from, all right? So again, I can't encourage you enough to do this first on this yellow paper, okay, before you submit. It's worth 5 points. Unlike our regular homework assignment, which is only worth 2, and also unlike our regular homework assignments, these are going to be graded on accuracy. So the expectation, guys, is that you've seen all of this before. This is not anything new to you. You've seen it, plus you have a week to do it. So if you don't know how to do something, you can seek help from me on different types of questions. You could come and say, you know what, I forget what the distributive property is. Can you help me out with this? Sure. All right, I'll help you at team time, before school, after school. Whenever you come to me, I'll help you with it. Now, this is not to be worked on like during class time. Like this is time, this is outside of class. And yes, we will still have other homework assignments, all right, during this time. Probably cut back a little bit, but that's why you have to be efficient with your time. The way that I'm going to grade it on accuracy is going to look like this. I just scribbled this over here on the board just to kind of give you an idea. Let's say it's worth 35 points, or there are 35 questions on it. If you get a certain number correct, that would mean that you would get a 5 out of 5. So the scale that I had just set up, I just made this up. This is not necessarily exactly how it's going to work. But let's say I said if you got a 32, between a 32 and a 35 correct, like 32 through 35 correct, that would mean you get a 5 out of 5 on this. So you can miss a couple questions and still get 100% on this. Dropping down a level, maybe you get between 28 through 31 correct, in that range. That would be equivalent to a 4 out of 5. 24 through 27, maybe a 3 out of 5. I told my last group, it's possible to get a 0 out of 5 even if you turned it in, because you have to meet some sort of level of accuracy in order to get that. So let's say, for instance, you got a 12 out of 35 right. Now, to me, that doesn't deserve any points because there's no way you should get a score that low for something like this. All right? So Do your best on it because you know that it's going to be graded on that accuracy component. That's 5 points. So we're going to do these 5 for 5 weeks. 5 times 5, go ahead and punch that into your calculator if you need to, right? So that's 25 points that you don't want to pass on, or you don't want to miss, 2 points here and there, and to end up, when it's all said and done, be like, well, I got an 18 out of 25 on those homework points, right? That's like a 72%. That's not good. You wouldn't be happy with that. So always do your best on these ones. The last thing I put down, well, 2 things. If you lose this hard copy that I gave you, on my website, there'll be another copy available. You just have to go to my website. On the left-hand side, it'll say PSSA Prep. Click on that, and then there'll be a PDF there that you can just print it out, okay? I'm not going to have endless supplies of these things. So if you lose it, I'm just going to say go to my website and print it out, all right? This is your only copy I'm giving out today. If it's late, and by late, I mean yours would be due second period on Friday, March 15th. And you may want to write that at the top, like due March 15th. Okay, that's next Friday. But if when you come in on Friday, I'm not going to walk around and check for this. I'm just going to pull up the Google form, and I'm going to see who submitted it. And if it's not in by, I guess that would be, for you guys, 9 o'clock on Friday, 9 a.m., then that would be considered late. So even if you turn it in at team time on Friday, that's considered late because it wasn't due for class. And I would take a point off right away, and then I would still grade it on this scale. Okay, so you could, let's say you got 35 correct, but you missed a point for being late, you're down to a 4 out of 5. Or let's say you got 28 correct, you missed a point for being late, you're already down to a 3 out of 5. So that's how it's going to work from that. So just get it in on time. You don't want to forego an easy point from that. Okay? So that's the first thing that happens on Friday. Next Friday, you're going to get the brand new packet. This one's then done. We pass it off. You get a new packet. But also every Friday, we do a quiz on this stuff. We're going to take a 5-point weekly quiz on this material. Okay? So make sure you do the best work you possibly can, because these would be the types of questions that you would see on the quiz. So if there's something in here that you don't understand how to do, then that's why you should get extra help. Because, yeah, maybe I could, get it right on the homework, or maybe I talked to a friend and they, told me what the answer was or whatever. Hopefully that's not the case. But then when you come in and take the quiz, they're not going to be able to give you the answer then. You got to know what to do. So make sure if you have questions, you come and see me about that. But 5 points there. So now, again, if you want to type this into your calculator, 5 points for homework plus 5 points for the quiz, 10 points this is going to be worth every week. All right? For 5 weeks, then 50 points, right? So, these are points that you should take advantage of. These weekly quizzes are not going to be difficult. It's going to be this stuff here. I'm not going to, put some ridiculous question, challenging question. It's going to be these types of questions. So theoretically, guys, we should be knocking out 10 out of 10 every week, maybe 9 out of 10 at the worst. Okay, this should help your score, not hurt your scores. All right? The quiz is going to cover everything in the packet, like I said. It's not going to be like, oh, this week's quiz, surprise. It's going to be on something completely different. No, it's going to be on what you saw all week. All right? And after you turn in the quiz, you'll grab the new packet. You can work on that. I'm not going to give the new packets out until Friday. So unless you're going to be out on a Friday, like let's say you're missing next Friday, come see me Thursday and I'll give you the new packet and you can take it then. But otherwise, it's not like, oh, can I get all of the packets and just work on them ahead of time? No. All right. I'm not going to put the forms on the Google Classroom until probably that Friday anyway, so you wouldn't be able to submit until that day. Now, going back to that, I probably should clarify. Going back to the submission. It says that you submit on the Google Classroom, of course. Well, you could submit at any point. It's not like you have to wait until that due date to submit. Like, I'll put it up here later today. So let's say you get into a rhythm this weekend and you knock out this entire packet and you're satisfied with your answers. If you want to submit them on Sunday, you could submit them on Sunday. You could submit them on Monday. You could submit them on Friday morning if you want, okay? I'm not even going to look at it until that day that it's due. So if you want to just get it done and check it off the list, that's completely up to you. But it'll be available for you to do that. All right, so that's the packet. That's the weekly quiz. The third component in this would be our warm-up packet, right here. Every day we're going to do warm-up questions out of this. Now this is in place of our objectives and bell ringers. So we're done with objectives and bell ringers for 5 weeks. Okay? So when you come in here, you don't have to copy down the objective and do the bell ringer problem. What you're going to do is you're going to get out this warm-up packet that I'm giving you, and you're going to work on the problems that I ask you to work on, maybe 1 or 2 problems. I'll just say, okay, do these problems here. Like, for instance, this is what you're going to see, like when you come in on these days for the next 5 weeks. It'll say, okay, here's your objective, and then it's just going to say maybe complete 1 and 2, or complete 10 and 11, or whatever like that. Okay, you do not need to copy these down anymore. Okay, so all you have to do is look up at the board, see what it says, pull out this packet, work it out. We'll go over it just like we do the bell ringer. Fix it if you missed it, put it away, we'll move on. Okay? I put something in here. We will take a 10-point quiz on our objectives and bell ringers next week. So the ones that we've compiled to this point, I do want to give you a quiz on those. That's usually an easy 10 points, or well, it's usually 20 points. But since we've only done about half of a 9 weeks, I'm going to condense it down to a 10-point quiz. I'll let you know when, maybe mid to late next week. Okay, but that's something that I want to do. And once we take that quiz, you can throw away those objective sheets, those yellow sheets. You're done with those. Okay, until we're done with the PSSAs, then we'll pick up the objectives and bell ringers from that point on. All right. It says down here, last thing, questions are former PSSA type questions. These are questions that were taken from old PSSA questions. So just to give you some familiarity with the types of questions you would be seeing on these PSSA exams. I said it yesterday. I'll probably say it about a dozen more times before we take this. I'm not worried the least bit about you guys. You guys are going to do great on these things, all right? That's not why we're doing this. I'm just trying to maximize how well you can do, right? You guys are all going to meet the level of expectation that I have for you. I just want you to try to do the best you possibly can on these. And if I can help you by just exposing you to the types of questions, then great. That's what we're going to do. Okay? So let me give everybody one of these packets. I promise this is the last thing I'm passing out to you today. All right, there's that. Okay. Are there any questions on any of this stuff so far? Like the weekly packets, the warm-up packets, the quiz, anything like that so far? All right, the other thing that we're going to do on Fridays, and this, I don't have to pass anything out, this is just what we'll do. So Fridays will look like this. You'll come in, probably have a warm-up question or two. We'll go over those. Remember, I don't have to check your weekly packets because those are already submitted to me. We'll do the quiz, that particular week's quiz. Once you're done with the quiz, you'll turn it in on the shelves, and in front of the shelves will be next week's packet. So you just turn in the quiz, you grab next week's packet. Then what we'll do is we'll do a set from quizzes. I don't know, we've done some quizzes sets in here earlier in the year. If we haven't, I'll show you that today. But what we'll do is get on to quizzes eventually. Yeah, this thing has a mind of its own, okay? So, and this will be for today even. So you get on to the quizzes, and we're going to do a practice set just online of the material related to the new packet. So for instance, today, here in a little bit, we're going to do one related to numbers and operations. This will give you some exposure to it and maybe point out some areas where you're like, oh, I forget how to do that. And then I can help you with it today so that throughout the week, you'll have seen it already. So next week when you do it, we're going to do a little preview on equations and inequalities in class. Maybe I'll point out some mistakes or point out some areas that you needed some help with, and that can kind of be a little proactive versus like, you having to come to me with all sorts of questions. Maybe we'll answer some of them beforehand. All right? So that's what Friday will look like every week for the next 5 weeks. You can book it. but that's the only day we're going to do anything. All right, Monday through Thursday, we're working on new stuff. Okay, we're gonna keep going through the material. It's not like we put everything on pause. We're gonna work through the material. We just devote one day to just kind of tighten this stuff up. Okay? Any questions on that right now? All right, good. So what we're gonna do